Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what happened. I have no idea what happened. Let me see if the music levels and everything are okay. Alright. So, oh, I've actually played Planescape Torment. It's one of my more preferred games, actually. It's really nice. If you guys want, I can do the crocodile next, and I'll do it with a reference, and I'll show you how to break down a reference to make drawing from reference easier or more productive for you. A flexing croc. Well, let's do a regular croc first, because this is really important stuff, I think, to know how to use reference. There are three things you need to pay attention to when you're using reference: is line, shape, and form. Right? So depending on what type of thing it is, determines what you would start with. For this type of thing, because there's a very clear silhouette on how it's supposed to look, I would start with shape. So when you look at this reference, you can break it down into very basic shapes, right? Like, suppose you interpret this as a cylinder right here. This tail is kind of like a wedge shape that goes back, right? So it's kind of like this. It's a wedge. This triangle shape right here. This is like a bendy tube. And the feet are just little kind of like cartoony bird feathers type things. If you look at this, you can tell the mouth is basically made up of two overlapping shapes like this in perspective. So that's the first thing you gotta do when you're looking at references most of the time, is you gotta break down the shape language of the thing, right? And then after that, you look at line. You start with the outline, like look at the contours, right? Clearly this thing is not a smooth object. It has a lot of different contours, little bumps and ridges everywhere, and also, it's important to notice the grain of the scales. You see the grain of the scale follows the shape of the tube, right? Let me pick a different color. Like if this was a cylinder here, the grain of the scales goes around, like this. So the direction of line is very important when drawing things, because it also emphasizes form, which is the last one. And form is something you get more into when you use like values and shading, but it's important to keep in mind. But since right now we're just using a line drawing, let's start with basic two, line and shape. So if I were to draw this right, I would let me put the mic down for a second. So I would first break down the shapes that I pulled from the reference, right, and lay them down so I have a general idea of what I'm drawing. Just to lay out the forms and everything, or not the form, the shapes and everything. And then after that, I'd have to pay more attention to like these little individual lumps and ridges of muscle in the animal, right? See, what's weird about this is that when you're drawing things from reference and you start drawing them a lot, you start realizing how weird they look. Like crocodiles look really weird, actually. Like, look at his weird little chubby bendy tube arms. But these things can run. They can sprint at like a good 18 miles an hour, I think. After that, you want to start noticing little things about it. Like, look at this hand. It's pretty much like a little human hand, but when you carefully look at it, the fingers are arranged at like the inside finger is very short, and the next one's a little longer. They have one very long one, and then two kind of sticking out the side. For balance purposes, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure there's a biological reason for that. So you start noticing little details, like this snout right here seems to be split into 3 little lumpy parts. And then this is what we call a form pass, or drawing through the form, which is understanding how the thing is shaped in a 3-dimensional way, right? And a good way to practice that is to do draw-throughs. So like, say the body is a cylinder, right? So if you're drawing through that, you would do this. Like if the body was a wireframe model, and you were to look at all the different cross sections of the wireframe model, you would do this. And this is a really effective way to study organic structures, especially, and hard surface actually as well, because it gets you into the habit of understanding form in terms of 3D space. Yeah. Oh. And you know the head, right? You can't really see it from this perspective, but you know that head is getting wider, right? Because it's a tapered shape. Like if you were to look at it from the top, it's like this. So when you draw through the form, you gotta compensate for the lack of perspective by making it wider. And this will condition you to think about things in terms of depth, even if you can't see the depth immediately. And I hope this is all making sense. Like, if anything I'm saying is confusing, please tell me, and I'll go back over it. But yeah, and you see this crocodile, like, it's organic, right? So it has skin, and it has muscle, and it has fat and stuff. So you see, like, some areas where the skin is very loose, like around here. So you have to pay attention to these areas, because if you were to draw this crocodile without that area, it would look wrong, like, because it would just look too smooth. See, it would start looking like a snake head, kind of. So that area is very defining, and you have to, when you draw each subject, you have to think about what is it about this subject that defines it, that makes it immediately obvious what it is as you're drawing it. Sorry if I'm talking too much, by the way. So once you figure that out, you can start detailing. And scales are very, I think CG talked about this on the stream once. Scales are very interesting in the sense that they're not always the same size, right? So when you're drawing scales, you have to consider where it is on the body. Like, big, broad areas like this will have the largest scales, and small areas will have the smallest scales, so that you can, bend and everything. And you have to notice how the scales are moving. They kind of move in like a wave pattern, kind of, So as you're drawing the scales, it's good to notice these trends in how they're formed. And the back seems to have 3 ridges of scales that go up around like this. Right, and I'm not gonna spend all night drawing all these scales, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. And the last thing is form, which is what matters when you start putting values on this thing. I would recommend ignoring color for now, especially if you just started. And what I would focus on is getting a nice, like, pretend this is a 3D model with no textures, right? And just think about what it would look like with ambient occlusion, cast shadow, and just regular lighting with no textures. So everything would think of everything as the same value, right? Because you don't want to focus on color yet. You just want to focus on being able to define this form as a crocodile. So if I were to take like this brush, right, and I'll go in and start shading things based on how the forms are shaped, following the lines of the draw through. Actually, wait, I might copy this picture over before I do that, because I want to keep this for tutorial purposes, I guess. Let me copy this back over here. The one upgrade that MS Paint got that's really nice is the fact that you can fucking undo more than 3 times now. So there's no pressure sensitivity. It's just the actual shape of the brush. When you're defining forms, right, you want to think about how it's shaped, and you want your brush strokes to go along the way it's shaped. And what that helps you do is that it gives you a visual suggestion of what the form is even before you start shading it. And that's why when you see concept artists who have really loose brushwork, it still looks three-dimensional because they're following the form with their brushwork. Oh, I think it's because of the compression on the stream. The MS Paint, the lines actually aren't that smooth. So if I were to upload like a full version of this, you would get to see all the jaggedness and everything. Alright, as of the moment we're going to ignore the reference. We're going to practice shading this form without looking at the reference based on what we figured out in this step here, right? So let's just assume our light source is over here. And we're going to shade that reference based on that, okay? So if the light source is over there, that means there's going to be shadows here. I shouldn't be telling you guys to ignore the reference, but this is also a good, like how to break down a reference, how to make sense of it in your mind. So, because a good part of being able to draw from references is also trying to draw without references. Like after you do one reference copy, try to draw it again without the reference. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to record it and upload it on your own, feel free. This is not like a private service or anything. I'm not charging for this. This is all free, so don't worry about it. Alright, so what you're seeing here is you're seeing a form pass, right? So we're defining the shapes here. This tail kind of has a triangular shape, so it has a sharp ridge at the top. That's why you get this nice strong edge here in the shading. This area is smooth around the side, so that's why you get a nice gradient going up with this specular where the light is hitting it, right? And this area here, it kind of puffs out, so it's a little broader than this area, so the gradient is a little more loose, and the specular is a little wider. And of course, cast shadow, this leg would be casting a slight shadow on the body right here. This arm would be casting a slight shadow on the body here. And naturally, the underside would be unlit, so you'd see a little bit of that shadow since it's round. Oh, what, you painted those, man? Dude, those are awesome. I used to paint Gundam models, but they never turned out that nice. I'm not sure if my mic is still working. My mic became unplugged a little bit, so it might not be working anymore. Dude, those fucking models are amazing, man. I really like that. That's great, dude. Do you ever consider streaming, painting those models? Because I know a couple people that do. So one interesting thing you can do is you can add a rim light on the other side. Rim light is one of those hit or miss things where it could either help or hurt your picture depending on how tastefully you use it. In this case it kind of looks like there's already a rim light here, but I'm probably going to get rid of that. But especially for drawing from reference or drawing form passes, sometimes you might want a two spot lighting, which is having a softbox light from here, and having a strong rim light from here, so that you can get that nice core shadow in the middle. I use GIMP, like, if I want to do professional work, but for the purpose of this stream, I'm just going to stick to MS Paint, Because I think when people see you drawing in MS Paint, it's also encouraging for them. They're like, oh, well, I have this, I can use this, it's easy, I can get into it, you know? So I think it's also a psychological thing. I like using MS Paint. It's less intimidating for people to see because they don't ask me like, hey, what program is that? Like, they don't presume that the program is what makes it possible, and it'll make it easier for them to get into it themselves. I'm using my trackpad on my laptop right now. Alright, let's look back and see if I got the forms right. It seems like I got most of them correct. There's definitely some bounce light from whatever this crocodile is being filmed against the tail. You see, this area is a little lighter. When I do like a value pass, I can, you know, apply that with some overlay layers or something. No, it's no problem, man. His models are awesome. I would love to host you if you start streaming sometime, dude. But immediate differences you can tell is that, okay, even though the form is correct, the values aren't correct, right? Because clearly the value in the mouth is lighter than the value on the skin. The value on the skin is very dark because it has very dark skin. And that's when you start analyzing color and their relation to value, right? Because your mind thinks that, oh, this part is in shadow, so it's probably really dark, but because the inside of the mouth is white, it greatly affects what value you would use if you were to do a grayscale of this actual thing. So when you do a value pass, you gotta start thinking about those things. But alright, I think I'm gonna call this, I think I've explained this well enough. If not, I can explain some more stuff. Oh, I actually have to manually change the brush size up here, where it says size. Yeah, thanks guys. This is mostly an educational stream. I'm not a Twitch person. I'm not an illustrator that works, by going on Twitch. I'm a freelance artist, so whenever I'm streaming, I'm willing to cover any topics you'd like to get covered. I'm willing to take requests. Just go ahead and post it in the chat, as long as it's something appropriate or something that I want to draw, which is pretty much most of the things. I'll do it, because this stream really has no direction. So I don't know why they keep pressuring me to stream, knowing that I don't have anything to work on. Yeah, what the hell is this? I hate when this happens. It's kind of like an OCD thing with me. I hate when like dialogue boxes and stuff are out of place. Let me check if this saved properly. Okay. Do you want me to draw CG less? I mean, I'm not sure if he wants me to show you guys his face though. Well, I know that, but not everybody here is like personal friends with him, so I know Adeline was pretty adamant about not sharing her picture anywhere. I guess since we did a crocodile just now, we can try to apply that to a character design, if that sounds interesting to you. Like, we can try to draw a crocodile character, like the model you painted. Alright, so I don't usually do this, like I don't draw construction for my characters, but this time around I'll draw some construction, since I don't normally draw crocodile, like animal hybrid characters, and it might be useful for you guys to see how the character would be constructed. Yeah, I'm taking suggestions, because I have nothing else going on. Okay, so what I learned from the reference is this general snout shape of a crocodile. Where their eye is placed is relatively far back, maybe in the last quarter of the head, and how the jaw is connected, right? So the jaw has a huge divot here, and the jaw itself, the bottom jaw is relatively wide. And there's also a lot of like meat and skin hanging around the neck area. So I'm going to use that in my drawing. And just for style, I might give him a little more pronounced ridges around the eyes, because like I said, eyes are very important for characters. quite like the sorry, I'm fumbling over myself. The really bulky arms in the crocodile model that Dr. Croc, oh, your name's Dr. Croc, I just realized that he linked, because when you're designing characters, it's important to note the intent of the character. Since it's a crocodile character, chances are he's kind of like an aggressive, predatory guy, and he's gonna have nice big meaty arms, right, to fucking razzle the shit out of his opponents and stuff. So this type of body build, the top heavy body build with the big arms and the big head and the small legs, it's very, very common in characters that emphasize aggressiveness. So one thing I noticed when I was doing the crocodile rep is that the crocodiles have these like really thick stubby fingers, and I'm going to try to integrate that into this character a bit, to one, refer back to the real life animal, and two, in order to give him a more aggressive look, like with big meaty claws, you know? And one thing I noticed, even though he is mostly humanoid, right, I kind of want him to have the whole opposable thumb thing going on. One thing I noticed about crocodiles is they have their thumbs kind of like tacked onto the side of their feet, like this. So I'm going to reflect that here in the foot. This might just end up being a line drawing, actually. Alright, so, one thing you want to think about now is the intent of the character, what his motivations are. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Right now he kind of just looks like a generic crocodile man, right? He could be a bad guy, or he could be a good guy. Like, he could be the tank on your team, or he could be the bodyguard of the main villain or something, you know? And this is when you can start playing with proportions or playing with certain features. If I wanted to make him look more evil, I could really emphasize the ridges on his back and give him really, like, just make him look more dangerous and not friendly, you know? You know, give him 2 particularly large teeth here, like a saber-toothed tiger. You know, just to bring out that, if you were to look at that face from the side, it would have a really strong silhouette now because of those 2 large teeth. And this would also carry on to the coloring paths. Like, depending on what type of character it is, you could change the colors around to convey that, because certain colors have certain automatic connotations in our minds. What I can do with this eye here is that I can move it closer to the jaw to make him look meaner, you know, like a pit bull, like his face is kind of shrugged in a bit. All these techniques work to make the character look more evil, you know? So he'll never be mistaken for a good guy. Give him a couple more spikes coming out the side. He's almost like a crocodile dinosaur guy. Let's see. Greed. Because he's greedy, I'm gonna get rid of his abs and give him a little more of a pudgier look. Because one denotation of greed is also gluttony, right? So this guy, if he's greedy, you know, he probably enjoys everything he does, including eating. You know, he probably spends a lot of money on anything that pleasures him. Word for that is hedonism, right? Especially since he's a crocodile. Look at this huge mouth, right? See, we've already kind of got a backstory for this character going, because he has this huge mouth, he's mean, he's aggressive, he wants everything, he's a predatory animal, he likes to dominate, so he's a greedy fucker. You want bags under the eyes? What did the bags denotate? Like, what emotions would the bags evoke from the viewer? Nah, Ego Raptor hasn't gotten back to me yet, man. Let me check my Facebook real quick. Okay. Hey, what's up, Ping? How you doing? Okay, so now we gotta think a little bit more about the backstory of this character, right? He's greedy, but what kind of greedy is he? Is he a rich guy greedy, or is he like a mercenary who really loves money, so he kills people for money, but you know, he dresses like a mercenary. He dresses down a little bit, his clothes are a little bit tattered and, you know, unkempt. Oh yeah, that's Monty Ohm. Oh yeah, I almost completely forgot about the tail. Alright, this is a good character design thing too. Depending on how epic you want this character to be, tails are very important, right? You give him a short little stubby tail, which kind of complements his stout build, or you can give him a really long epic tail, because imagine if this character is in a video game, or you know, he's a main villain in a cinematic, right? When he comes onto the screen, you're gonna want him to switch that tail around and create a lot of awesome dynamic movement, you know, to emphasize how epic he is. Alright, so now clothing, right? We can start to block in his clothing, and I'll change that to a different color so that if I send this to a client, I can send him the color lines to know how I broke down the forms, and I could also send him a final lines with black lines on top of it, which is, it also looks really cool, I think, when you do like a color breakdown of your design. Wow, please, Ryan. The CG raid is so late. I've been streaming for like 45 minutes. So, about clothing, this is largely about setting, like what type of world does this guy live in? Like a Warhammer type world where it's kind of industrial, thick plates of armor, or a fantasy world, or... It's up to you guys. I'm drawing whatever you want me to draw. So salvaged parts, like from his opponents, and a lot of animal skins, I guess. But would he be wearing leathers from like other crocodiles, or would he just be like, I only kill other types of animals? And also we have to think about what role he plays. This guy is he a warrior? He's a warrior, right? Does he kills people for money, or does he just kind of sit back and let other people do his work for him? Alright, he's a brawler, so that means he's not going to be wearing heavy armor. He needs a little bit of mobility. He needs to be able to throw some punches and move around a little bit, you know, duck, dodge a little. Maybe do some fancy footwork when he needs to. Let's see. In that case, we might go with some nice thick gauntlets though, because the forearm protection is very important for brawler types, right? Let's try to pick a good color to line this in. Yeah, red's not bad. Sure, why not? I'll try to integrate some of that. But see this armor plate here? It looks simple, right? But when you're designing, you have to think about, okay, so it has straps. How are the straps attached to the plate, right? I got these little rivets here, like, okay, that's how they're attached. But how do the straps come off? So you have like a little bit of a buckle here to suggest that they can come off. These aren't just random details, they're details that denote how the thing works. So you have to keep that in mind when designing characters. I think I'm gonna go with like a kind of a spiked motif since we're gonna put bones all over this character. So I'm gonna put a couple little spikes here and there, but not too. I don't want him to be too spiky. I just want him to have, you know, have a consistent theme going here. I want to put some nice sharp ridges on his knuckles because he's a brawler, right? He wants those punches to hurt people. And one good way to denote that something is salvaged, or if it's like improvised or homemade, is to show the stitch work, right? Because really good stitch work that doesn't, you know, appear on the clothing, that's unique to high fashion. Like, it takes a fashion designer to design that. But if he found this stuff from the battlefield, you know, from other warriors that he killed, it's gonna have sloppy stitch work here and there, you know? Yeah. I'm gonna stream tomorrow, probably sometime during the night. So alright, let's see, what else? Since he's a brawler, he's probably going to be wearing some type of vest or with just very light armor over his shoulders. Very, very light armor. What I'm gonna do is integrate some of the stuff that Dr. Croc linked me in his link. I'm gonna put some drawstrings between these two pieces of armor, right? And on the drawstrings, I'm gonna hang some teeth from different animals that he's killed. Oh yeah, I'm gonna explain the whole designing process. Is this boring for you though? If it's boring, then I'm not gonna do it. But if this is something you're interested in, because I'm a concept artist by trade, right? So I'm just explaining all the thought processes. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, I love to teach. So, whatever you guys want me to draw. And it's about 5 a.m. anyway, so I have nothing else going on. They're jalapeno peppers. He likes to keep jalapeno peppers on his necklace. No, but seriously though, they're supposed to be teeth, but you can't really see them right now. I guess the forms aren't reading too well, which is something I'm gonna have to work on in the final line pass of this. Alright, so he wears this kind of like weird tattered vest that's not too detailed because, like I said, he's a rough man. He does not care about. He's a rough crocodile man. Does not care about fashion too much. Alright, and what I might do is to keep the teeth motif going around the torso, what I might do is I might hang some teeth off of his shoulder armor actually. Alright, now pants. This is a toss-up. What do you guys think would be good for pants? Yeah, I think in the final pass I'm gonna change the teeth to different types so that it's more obvious what types of teeth they are. But right now, for this rough sketch purpose, I'm gonna just show where they are. Damn, that's a lot of different answers. Loincloth? Okay, well, I guess we're going with the loincloth. That's a good point, Stormy. Yeah, he does have tough skin, so why does he need, pants? You see, I kind of got this theme going where his armor looks like it's improvised, like everything's kind of loosely secured with straps and buckles in places and little rings. It's really nice that that you guys suggested the Chrono Trigger playlist because it's working perfectly with whatever we're drawing. You guys remember this song from Chrono Trigger when you fight the robot at the carnival? It sounds pretty much like a Rickroll, doesn't it? Alright, now the armor has been mirrored on the other side, so we can move on. Oh wait, that isn't, you're right, that's the song, that's the Robo's song. I think his name is Robo? The robot you get in the factory. What I'm gonna do is to put some random straps on his legs to give it some visual interest. I'm just filling up the negative space here. These straps really serve no purpose, but what is a fantasy character without some random straps? I kind of want to mirror the arm armor in the legs to make it look like, you know, he's not like wearing any type of outfit or anything. It's just that it makes the character look more coordinated, just for the viewers' purposes. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, marketability is very important. Like, you want people to see your character in the game. You want them to go like, oh hey, I really like how that character looks. It's kind of fashionable, it's kind of cool. I want to draw fan art of it. And then that's how word gets around about your game. So it's very important to remember that it has to look to some degree appealing. You don't have to draw like a super pretty thing, you know, because this guy's pretty gross when you think about it. Like, imagine seeing an actual crocodile man. Like, he would smell so bad. But it has to be able to sell itself to the viewers. Now the question is, what do you do with his face or his head? What should we do here? Yeah, my primary source of income is concept art, yeah. So this is my full-time job, streaming for you guys and concept art. Sunglasses. See, that could go either way, right? If I gave him sunglasses, then he would be like a Crocodile Dundee type character. But then he might be misconstrued as a good guy, right? So you think there should be nothing on the face? Let's see. A lot of conflicting opinions, guys. See, if I had a system where I could make you guys like, if I could give you money like piglings, and you can compete with each other, and then I'll take the winner's idea. I hope Revlobot can do something like that, because that would be really fun for this stream. Okay, see, this is what iterations are for. So nobody can agree on what to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 3 versions, right? And this is great. Clients love this shit. When you send them 3 versions of a character that they can choose from, they're like, oh my god, you did a lot of extra work, but all you did was copy and paste it and change a few things about it, right? Alright, so the first guy, he's gonna have like a mask like Dr. Croc said. I'm gonna take Dr. Croc's word for the first guy because his name is Dr. Croc. The next 2 guys, I'm gonna give him the hats you guys wanted, and the last guy, I don't know. Okay, sure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these little dangly bits on his mask, and you might be wondering why, because it's like it seems like it just clutters it up, but you have to think about these things if they're gonna be in a game or in a movie. When he moves around in the movie, those dangly things are gonna be flying everywhere, and it's gonna look amazing. Like, it's gonna add a lot of visual interest to whatever shot he's in. So you have to think ahead.